Hello, today is June 22nd. The last update that I made was on June 19th. 3 days have gone by since I posted the last update. I ha Excuse me, I haven't been able to write the past 2 days, but I have been able to write today. So today I spent 6 hours, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a video ready to play. I have it paused right now. So I ran a dev test today with bots, and I tested a new feature. And if you can see on the screen, maybe not because it's too bright, it's called Payload. Now, if you have paid, if excuse me there, if you've played Team Fortress 2, you're familiar with Payload. Also, if you play Overwatch. So the concept of a payload is to, how should I say? Basically, the payload is an entity that when you stand by it, it moves. When you go away from it, it stops moving. And the objective is for the payload to reach a destination and for one team, and as the other team to prevent the payload from reaching wherever it has to go. So I brought that concept to NS2 Siege. I just spent, sorry, not NS2 Siege, NS2 Avoca Zero Dose mod that I've been writing. So I have this video ready to play of the dev test, and so before I start to play it, the video was originally 18 minutes long. I cut it down to 7 minutes long by fast forwarding certain parts, and I have a general idea of what I'm gonna say. Excuse me. I have a changelog that details everything, so I'm gonna play the video and try to read the changelog, and maybe I'll try to narrate. But this is my first time doing this, so excuse me if I get messy or miss a part or something. So here we go. I'm gonna play the video. This is me on the arc, moving it by standing close to it. And when I stopped, let me pause it. When I stepped away, it stopped moving. Right now I have it at 4 distance. Also, if you notice, I have the model size of the arc. Well, let me start from the beginning. It's an arc, this payload. So I modified an arc. I changed the name to payload. I made it 4 times bigger, and I made it bright. And I made more modifications to that, but let's play the video. So there's one issue with this, is that when you go away from it and when you go back onto it, so when it stops and starts, it gets a new waypoint every time from a random hive. Oops, let me pause it. Did you see that sys just pop up out of nowhere, and it brought the egg and it brought a whip on the left side? That's part of the main room formula that I have. So the arc's going away. I think teammates pushed it, but I got distracted. I decided not to fast forward this part just to demonstrate some play test of the main room. So you got the waypoint, you got the lights changing colors of the room, you got the eggs there, and then you got the cyst. Everything's shrinking inside. I just got spawned the health kit. Fast forward here, just to save some time. And if you see here, I used a phase gate, and the phase gate teleported me onto the arc itself. And there's a power drainer spawning. Non-stop action, the game just started. I just skipped along a few minutes until the arc spawned. And you notice the arc right here. So when the arc, I told it to, this is the part where NS2 comes in, then mixed with the payload concept. If the arc, aka payload, has if it finds an entity, which is an enemy that it can shoot at, meaning it's not cloaked, it's visible, such as a whip or a crag. Not harvesters. I don't think harvesters work. You'll see later it goes past a harvester. But as soon as it finds an entity in range, it can shoot. It pops up. And I hope I didn't miss it. You're going to see it go to from blue. Oh, I did miss it. Basically, the blue means that it can't be damaged. So when it can only be damaged when it's popped up shooting. That's one thing I try to decide to remix. I know this is information overload here. So let's fast forward the video here. What I'm doing here, I'm just testing the payload, making sure I'm moving it just by being around it. It's a long walk with slow speed. Right now it's going to a hive, so I don't have God mode on, and you see a power drain respond, so the whip's gonna pop up. I slowed it back. For a split second, it went, the God mode turned off, and you saw it said Avoca arc instead of payload. So the arc has 3 times damage, right, or 3 times the health right now of a default arc, and does 3 times the damage. So right now, it's one of the issues is it found a new waypoint. It's because it stops and reset. So maybe next time if I update this, it'll go to the continued waypoint. But then again, maybe players will like having this roam the entire map because it's a phase gate and it can't go down. This is a portal for Marines to go by. You'll see me when I respawn here. Ignore the chat. I'm not going to read the chat. You'll see when I respawn, I just take the phase gate, and the phase gate takes me right back to here. And it's great because you can't take down this phase gate unless the phase gate has a whip around it and goes vulnerable and tries to attack it. And you'll see here it skips the harvester, which I don't mind. We're going straight to a hive. Just by being around it, it's moving itself. That's a concept. No commander. The commander doesn't exist. The commander doesn't have to tell it where to go. This is automated just by standing by it. So we're going to a hive to cross the map. And I don't have God mode on. You'll see me turn it on after this just because the bots have aimbot and I want to test the payload. I don't want to have to respawn. So I go back, do slow motion, and go back to the arc. So you'll see now the arc is vulnerable. If that gorge biomed it, it would actually take the arc and it would have to start over from scratch. The reason why I decided to go with this concept of payload is because in the last video, noticed I had about 10 arcs, 12 arcs spawning one after one, and each going to a random hive, and each shooting a random hive. And that wasn't fun because I play tested that today. I fixed it and it worked, and the hives went down within like 5 minutes. So I think this concept is more fun. It's like a remix, bringing something new to the gameplay, and this is something I could see myself playing. Maybe, oh, you'll see here, it finds the next hive. I'm not sure on the damage output, but you notice here it put in for the hive to scan, so that way the arc prioritizes shooting the hive. And I fast forward here because it takes forever, even with 3000 damage. So the arc's doing about 1300 damage per shot when it normally does about 485. So even with this 3 times damage, it takes a while without pressuring it because of the hive defense. I don't know if I should keep this, but you're going to see me demonstrate here 2 things. The console's printing information, I paused it here. This is for debugging. You'll see moving is false, attacking is false, in radius is true. In radius means it finds entities in radius, which you'll see momentarily. That's going to turn false once the shade cloaks everything. I only told it to scan when the hive exists. When the hive goes down, it's going to stop scanning. So it's not going to shoot those shades unless the player sees them as visible. Should move is false, should stop is false, should attack is false, should undeploy is false. So I have it as in deploy is true. I think that we're going to go over the Lua after this video. So if you hang on, we got about 3 minutes left of this video, then I'll go over the Lua and the changelog if I missed anything. But yeah, this is where I demonstrate the arc stops shooting because I leave the shades alone and it goes back to cloak. And then because of that, the arc is going to go back to deploy, or not deploy. It's going to go back to stationary move mode with God mode back enabled. Right on cue, right here. And I can't express the feeling I get recording this, I just wrote this, and then here I am watching it in action. And as you see there's a split second, you'll see the phase gate aligned the marker with the arcs. So the teammate kind of gets the hint of go there. They get if they die, they're not punished. Kind of like the aliens. The aliens get the respawn at the hotspot via the egg teleportation. The Marines get to teleport to the hotspot via the invincible arc through the phase gate in their base. And you'll see here the arc shot something, and now it's getting in the bare minimum range of the hive. So you'll see it shows a very smart location. It's not suiciding directly in the hive like it was before. Now it's barely getting like the very tip. As soon as it's barely in range, it starts shooting. I told it to go on 1 second or 4 second timers, I think, to check. We'll see the Lua after this. But you'll see it still takes a while to take down the arc. Take down the hive. The arc only acts as a distraction that requires Marines to push in. Now, I was having a thought after this. Maybe if you kill a hive, have it reward you with another payload, which goes as 2 arcs. So you get double the output. But at the same time, you have to have the team push both of those arcs. I'm just brainstorming out loud because this payload idea is so far way better than what I had of the last changelog on June 19th, where 12 arcs just spawned randomly, because the game ended just too fast that way. And this way, there's not too much 100% automation. There's still player control, even though there's no commander. The commander in this role is the player telling the arc where to go just by supporting it. And you'll notice once again here, the arc goes the very outskirts of the radius. It's funny how there's an extractor there. Today I also increased the power drainer's spawning chance by removing 3 power nodes from counting as the ratios built, because the aliens start with 3 hives off the bat. And there you go. So let me get to the Lua, because that's the payload in action. And let me read this changelog here. So on top of the payload arc, 3 times HP as default arc, 3 times model size, 3 times damage. Cannot be damaged until deployed. Receives 70% damage when it is deployed. It moves only when a player is nearby. Stops and deploys when eligible enemy is found within radius. Undeploys when there's no longer enemy in radius / enemy cloaks. Arc becomes target of phase gate exit and switches unit names accordingly as well, from payload to Avoca arc. The downside / known issue is it currently resets order waypoint every time it's stopped and resumes. And another issue I would like to say I fixed today was a crashing issue when the game ended or reset. Okay, so if you're not into Lua, you can tune out now. I want to go over the rules of the payload just based on my experience of playing TF2 and watching the rules of payload mixed with the concept of NS2 arc deploying when a whip is by. So for debugging purposes, I had it print specific rules so I knew that it starts. So this part gets a little technical because it references arc.lua and arc_server.lua. So I define moving as self.mode equals arc moving. But before I get into this, I had it to, in another Lua file, when the arc is created through the robotics factory, I told it to tell the arc to begin this timer, which this timer checks every 4 seconds. And so that timer checks the hive for the scan. So it says if there's an arc in range of a hive, then scan the hive, and that's when the arc shoots the hive. And the specific rules, which I was just mentioning. So to continue, so this is the definition of moving. So I had to define attacking. I defined in radius, which is defined as there's a hive in radius or any eligible structure such as a whip or a crag that can be fired at, such as not cloaked. Okay, so that's the definition of in radius I defined, and I debugged it to print the Boolean definition of in radius true or false. And I defined should stop as should stop self, which means should stop is defined as no players in radius to push it, basically. So search players equals get entities and team within range. So I want it to be a Marine, but I said player, team 1 in this origin, within 4 distance, so you basically have to touch it. So if you have 1 players or more, then return false, that it should not stop. Otherwise, it should stop. So should attack is in radius, which is hive in radius or entity in radius, and not attacking. So attacking is defined as deploy mode, deployed, which is, it changes the animation. When it becomes ungod noded, not blue anymore otherwise. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry. And I don't remember where I was at. Should stop, should attack. So should attack equals in radius and not attacking. I'm getting myself confused here. It took me hours to debug this step by step. So basically, before I confuse myself, define these definitions, and oh man, I can't even get back into this mindset of how this works. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I could, but try to figure it out yourself. If you have questions, let me know. You know what? Let me bring that back. I'm at 16 minutes. If you're this far in, you want to know how this works. Okay, so if should stop or moving and should attack, then print stop order, clear orders, set mode stationary. See, this is the part that took me a while to figure out, set mode stationary, because without this set mode stationary, it's going to think that you're going to want to move, because the mode will change when it's deployed to some other. If that doesn't make sense, I just know that this solved it. And it took me a while. I had to rewrite this several times. It took me a while to write this, but I had to rewrite it in a way that made sense. So these definitions made sense, kind of bringing it to English. So if should stop or moving and should attack, then clear orders and set the mode to stationary, so you're stopping. So this is like if you're moving, basically, and you should attack, so you find something in radius, this is what tells it to stop. So print stop, you clear orders, set the mode stationary, and from there the arc will automatically start to fire, because I don't have any shades on the field other than the hive, and the hive scans. So this basically is the first one up, and the next one is else if should move and not should attack. And then from there it goes if should undeploy, then undeploy, otherwise move. Because I had to do it this way because at first I had should undeploy down here, and then I had should move up here. And what happened was, because the debug told me that the move came first, so I had to put that otherwise, because this would become true, and then the should move would become true, and the should move would become prioritized. So I had to be even more specific and prioritize this. So this is, in other words, perfectly ordered to work as intended as a payload, but to deploy when it finds something in range, and then undeploy when that thing in range goes away. It's very complicated, and I got it working. I think I'm going to rush the ending of this video because we're at 19 minutes and that's a bit long. So thank you, and hope you enjoyed 6.22 of Avoca's heroic dose.